All connections are go. We are clear for takeoff. It is 10 o'clock on FriYay. I am excited to be here. Well, I'm just happy to be here all the time, but it's FriYay, so I'm even more excited. There's a chair with no one sitting in it. Let me move that out of the way a little bit. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're ready for an amazing weekend. I hope that you've got good things planned and that you are going, planning to be safe. Making those plans in advance. No impaired driving. I just posted a video about impaired driving. 17 people arrested last weekend for impaired operation offenses. Amazingly, 2 of them were passed out. Well, actually more than that. 2 of them were passed out, and that was the only information about those 2. 4 were passed out and had vomited. 1 person passed out in a drive-through lane. 1 person passed out with a loaded firearm in their car. Not good things. I'd like this weekend to be zero. So in the whole spirit of Arrive Alive, don't drink and drive. Don't drive under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Drive sober. It's so simple. I was a kid in going to school, and OSED and MAD, these were all things that were teaching folks about the risks and about impaired driving. And somehow it's as though no one heard a thing. Because if we got 17 people just in the city of Toronto, how many didn't we get? And how many were elsewhere in the country or the planet? It's too many people that are choosing to put the lives of others at risk selfishly because they chose not to make some simple plans to avoid tragedy, potential tragedy. Some people don't actually get caught or cause any damage, and they get away with it that time. I just had a long conversation with a student who called in and they said, I've got a project. I need to talk about, impaired driving and stunt driving. So we had a conversation and then I talked about impaired driving. Anyway, that's why I'm on this thing. Welcome again. Today is the 22nd of September. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff every single day, even when I'm not at work. My kids are sick of it. But just a couple of hellos, and then we'll talk about Vision Zero Enforcement Team, and then we'll get into your questions. A little heads up, we're going to go a little long today because at 20 minutes after 11, Jerry Yeager is going to join me for 10 minutes to talk about stuff and things. Brian Max is going to join us later in the hour. He is a race car driver, team principal owner. He's a journalist in the automotive space. He's a radio show host on Dave's Corner Garage. He is a man of many talents. He's a YouTuber. He's everywhere. Anyway, he's going to join, and we're going to talk about some stuff and things later on in the hour. But let's get on with things. So Big Jeff Fresh hosted a pre-show party. The chat is open on YouTube when we create the link, so you're always welcome to go in and chat amongst yourselves. YouTube.trafficcop.ca to get in there. To get to our YouTube page and subscribe, because everyone should subscribe. Oh, by the way, that leads me into a perfect segue as to how does one engage and speak to us. Well, we're broadcasting on a number of platforms. Yes, we're on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, and the platform formerly known as Twitter, now referred to as X. X is the only one that does not allow you to communicate with us in any way. You can't actually ask us questions on X, and that is because it doesn't work with Restream. And truly, TikTok doesn't work with Restream either. However, we have the magic of moderators. Today, it's my wife who's helping by taking your questions and bringing them over. So if you ask a question, it is going to be reproduced onto Restream so that I can answer it. If it doesn't happen instantly, know that there's a whole bunch, and it comes in when it comes in. So don't harass anybody. Don't spam. Oh, I haven't referred to the spam. Please don't spam the chat. That can of spam that I use as a prop, courtesy of Akela Draconis. Good morning to you, sir. Let's see here. I wanted to change the logo. That's not a logo. I just posted this morning. I've been a little bit behind in terms of posting the podcast replay. It says replay podcast. Yeah, this is live, but the replay after this live is complete gets downloaded and generally uploaded same day to podcasting platforms, your favorite one, hopefully. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the whole thing. And I did that this morning because I downloaded it and then I forgot to edit it. It's been busy. I got a lot of stuff and things going on here. I recorded a fantastic episode of TPS Traffic Jam, and now I just need to edit it and share it with y'all. And we will do that on Monday or Tuesday because I do not believe I will be here. I'm for sure not going to be here on Tuesday. I don't believe I'm going to be here Monday either. So hopefully we can get that episode ready for you on Monday. And it is with the Gatehouse. TheGatehouse.org is an organization that that provides a safe place for victims of child sexual abuse. And I'm probably not doing it justice in terms of describing what they do, but they really do offer services to help and heal. And I had a great conversation with two people who were very involved with the board, and you'll want to tune in and listen to this. And they're holding a gala on October 5th. They're doing a fundraiser. It's a big deal. If you know people who would benefit from the episode, keep us in mind. I'll publish and talk about it and promote when it's ready to go. But it's a really big deal. It was a really cool episode for me to be part of. So I thank them for coming and visiting, and I look forward to sharing with you. Now back to this. What am I talking about? Okay, so we have the Happy FriYay message. Stephen Bell with a Happy FriYay Friday. Oh, it's Happy Friday. Good morning, Happy Friday. Yes, and then there's a whole bunch of by themselves talking. We've got Zombie with FriYay, and we got to talk about Vision Zero. Thank you for the reminder. See, I talked about other stuff and things that I forgot to do my spiel. Okay, Vision Zero, if you don't know who they are, they're a dedicated group of officers who focus on traffic safety, and they do that specifically in the actions and activities that are engaged by drivers who choose to be unsafe on the roads. And these the big four, contribute to serious injury and death more often than not. These are the most dangerous driving activities. Speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, impaired driving. We know this. It's statistically proven. And that's why they focus on them. They're changing driver behavior one ticket at a time. I suggest you not meet them, and the way to ensure you don't meet them is to not break the law. Where are they today? Well, we tell people where they focus their efforts because, first of all, it's not the only enforcement activity taking place in the city. It's where there's the most concentration of officers focused on, in this area. But we have officers throughout the city who are enforcing highway traffic laws. Now, let's see here. They are in 32 Division and 55 Division. Those are neighborhoods like Downsview, Willowdale, Newtonbrook, Bathurst Manor, the Beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York. It's where people who are real live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. And they are contributing to the safety of those neighborhoods. Hopefully, long-lasting effects because they go to a different area every day. And I hope that they have drivers second-guessing their choices. Like maybe speeding wasn't a good idea. Maybe that ticket inspires them to make better decisions going forward. I really, really hope that that's the case. I don't know. I'd be curious to know how many repeat offenders, because automated enforcement cameras, they get repeat offenders. I keep referring to one in particular, one situation where a gentleman, I say gentleman, I don't know who it was, but round and round they went around the block, and each time they made a right turn on the red, they did it without stopping and got 4 tickets. If you want to watch an episode about automated enforcement, you can search the TPS Traffic Jam, which is our podcast, and I have one with the automated enforcement team, and I thought it was very enlightening. Very enlightening. All right, let's see what people want to talk about this morning. What happens if you're pulled over after 12 a.m. with a full car and you've just got your G2? Okay, we'll talk about that. That talks about conditions of a driver's license. There are conditions when it comes to G2s. Interesting. In response to conversations about impaired operation, that's not what we were. It scrolled up just as that's some pretty quick updating. This is what I meant to put on screen. Big Jeff Fresh says maybe all vehicles should have an interlock type thing that just won't start if you don't blow a pass. So interlock, if you are convicted of an offense under the for impaired operation, one of the ways of getting driving faster is to apply and pay for an interlock device. That is to have essentially a breathalyzer in the vehicle that requires you to not only blow to start the vehicle, have a passing, 0 BAC to start the vehicle, but you also have to randomly provide breath samples while you're driving. And do you think that every car should have it? Would that cause you or make it safer? Yeah, interesting. There's talk that could be a thing. Hopefully we just get self-driving cars and we just never have to worry about it. All right. Kayla's got a hard stop at 11, and I've got to go late, but yeah. It's not. Oh, is it not? Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about bicycles, and we'll talk about that in a second. Tim Shallow, good morning to you. Ogmara coming through from Kick, good morning to you. Thanks for saying hey. We don't get a lot of action on Kick. I love it when I see the a Kick icon pop up. Tell your friends. And actually, if you're watching on any platform, please share, subscribe, like, subscribe, do all that, whatever the appropriate terminology is for the platform you're visiting us on. But please like, and if you're on TikTok in particular, please tap the screen. Let's send some likes for the stream. Helps the algorithm show it to more people. I know that also means that more people will be competing for questions to be answered, but it helps people. You'd be helping someone get good information, and maybe just make the roads safer. That's the whole goal here. We want to answer your questions, but we want to make the roads safer. We got here, if I mirror, okay, we're going to have a look at this. Mirroring the infotainment system. We got Dr. Nick with a question about taking off. G2 driving a company truck, is it a problem? Let's talk about that. I'll throw this on the message right on the screen right now. Stephen Bell would like to thank all of us and all first responders for all you guys do for us. You're very welcome. I appreciate the appreciation, and I pass it along. And we have many police officers who watch the stream and are probably watching right now, so you've thanked them directly. I appreciate that. And by the way, for anyone who follows us, thank you for being part of this ride. 631,400 followers on TikTok alone. It's been pretty awesome. YouTube, we're approaching 2,500. We've got 20,000 or so on Twitter. It's really just fantastic that we continue to grow, and it's because of people like you who watch and contribute and participate in these shows. This particular show is all about you answering your questions so that we can demystify the Highway Traffic Act that seems to really leave a lot of people confused. Some people don't care. That's different. Our hope is to demystify and educate and ultimately help people make better choices. Let's see. Oh, questions about stopping in the bicycle lane. What happens if a G1 driver is caught driving alone? Doing 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. We'll talk about that. Can I have windows tinted black? Okay, we'll talk about that. Rear-ended on a roadway, only have a partial plate. Is there any way to investigate? Failed terrain collisions, we take reports for those. Absolutely, we'll talk about that. After being convicted, can a case be reopened? All of these are good questions. Let's start at the top now that I've flagged all of those. Again, we'll be taking questions all the way to 11 o'clock and maybe even a few extras since I have to be here waiting for Jerry Yeager and crew. So the first question is one, I don't think anyone's asked before, what happens if you get pulled over after 12 a.m. with a full car and you've just got your G2? So G2 has a couple of stages. When you first get your G2, you have 2 6-month periods in which you cannot have more than a certain number of prescribed occupants other than immediate family that are under the age of 20. After a year, that is gone. So in the first 6 months, you can have no more than one person in your vehicle other than immediate family under the age of 20 between the hours of 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. If you are caught with that person or more than one person, you are going to get fined for a contravention of your conditions, and that will also result in a 30-day suspension on conviction. In the second 6 months, you can have up to 3 persons under 20 between the hours of 12 and 6, and a same situation. If you're caught, you have more than you're permitted, you will get a ticket. And if it's your first conviction, you're going to get a 30-day suspension. Second conviction, 90. Third conviction, kicked out of the driving program altogether. You have to start as a G1 all over again. No credit for your time invested, or your money for that matter. I hope that answers your question. If you got more questions, please feel free to ask. The question is it important for cops to stop bikes from speeding and riding on the sidewalk? Well, here's something I got mixed emotions about. First of all, I believe strongly that all vehicles, whether it be bicycle, skateboard, anything you're operating on the road, if you're breaking laws while doing it, you need to be stopped. You need to be held accountable. And that might mean you paying tickets. It might mean you not being allowed to participate on the road. Now, cars and bikes to me are no different. They're vehicles. Now, speeding is not an offense that can be laid against a cyclist unless their bicycle is an e-bike that goes more than 32 kilometers an hour, at which point it's not an e-bike anymore, it's a motorcycle, and then it would become covered under the speeding laws. Except, and I say bicycles can't be charged except if they're in a City of Toronto park. There is a speed limit of 20 kilometers an hour that is enforceable to all users. If you were running more than 20 kilometers an hour, you would be eligible for a ticket under the bylaw. Sidewalk, nobody should be on the sidewalk that is 14 or older. Sadly, we see a lot of e-bike riders. They tend to find themselves on the sidewalk. Not okay. No bicycling on the sidewalk unless you are a child 13 and under. And I get it. I want my kids on the sidewalk. They still have to be doing it safely, because if they don't, they can be charged for riding, skateboarding, rollerblading even. If you're on the sidewalk and causing danger to pedestrians, you should be charged and held accountable too. So there's a balance of safety. That's what I'm talking about. How much cannabis can I have in my system while driving, and how do you test that on the road? And do you need probable cause? Probable cause. So we can stop anyone to test for sobriety. With cannabis, if you're someone who is going to have a requirement of zero blood alcohol content and zero drugs, like a novice or young driver, a commercial driver, we have a testing machine that will take a buccal swab, basically a Q-tip in your mouth, test, and from your saliva determine if you have THC in your system. That is truly zero that you can have in your system. When it comes to impairment by way of cannabis or alcohol, well, alcohol allows us to test very easily with a breath sample and a roadside screening device. For cannabis, you're looking at a sobriety test roadside, or the involvement of a drug recognition or drug examination expert. They changed the title recently. DRE, drug recognition expert, I think. Somebody said it differently and it threw me for a loop. Anyway, we don't need to, we're gonna look at you. We're gonna make a determination whether or not there's a belief that there's impairment. You could be arrested directly and taken to a second level. You could be screened essentially with a roadside device, or by way of sobriety testing. So hopefully that answers your question. If I mirror my phone screen onto the car infotainment system, can I legally use it at a red light? You cannot use it for the purposes of web browsing or movie watching. What is currently available, not mirrored, but currently available by way of CarPlay, is legal when it comes to not triggering a charge for distracted driving. It could, however, trigger a charge of careless driving. So different situation. Now, if you have a screen that's playing a movie, that's still an entertainment device and it would still be distracted driving. So we can zig and we can zag. You can't have a screen visible to a driver that is in an entertainment setting. You can't have a movie playing. And your phone is really, again, limited to what's in CarPlay or Android Auto. Is Android Auto any good? I wonder. Can you take off at a light? Can you take off at a light? Can you take off at a light to the speed limit if no one is around you, because then it wouldn't be marked departure? If you're doing something that is interpreted as unsafe, if it is something that is the officer is articulating in their evidence, they have the ability to charge you. At the end of the day, you shouldn't be doing stuff that's dangerous. And 0 to 60 launches are generally not considered a safe practice. But then the question is, what are they seeing? Was it involving chirping your tires and doing a burnout? Like, there's so many things that could still get you in trouble. If no one's around, then no one's around. And does that make it right? Well, I'd say no. But if truly no one's there, no one's witnessing it, no one will probably care. If someone's around, then you were wrong in your assessment as to nobody. G2 company truck, is it a problem? If you are licensed as a G2 driver, you have to follow your conditions, but you can drive any vehicle that is covered under the G2 umbrella, company truck or otherwise. They may have conditions on their insurance policy that say they don't want someone under a certain age driving. That's up to them and their insurance provider and their internal policies. Why are vehicles allowed to stop in bike lane and no parking areas with hazards on? They're not. They're not. You can stop beside them, and the pedestrians can then walk through the bike lane and to cross safely without interfering with the cyclist. But they can't stop on the bike lane. There's no permission at all. In fact, we used to, when bike lanes were being, when was it? It was a while ago. I was on the road, so more than 5 years ago. There were times where we were just hammering anybody who stopped in a bike lane. Hazards, wig, nothing. You can't do it. Police can, because there's an emergency situation. We can do things that others can't. But nobody can go in the bike lane. Drives me bananas. What happens when a G1 driver gets caught driving alone? One of my favorite questions, because the deal is that not only do you get charged for G1 drive unaccompanied, which is a violation of a condition of your license, you're not licensed. You don't have a driver's license. You very much have a learner's permit requiring somebody to be supervising you, and that person has to be qualified to do so. So what is the deal? The deal is you get that ticket. It's $110. You get a 30-day suspension your first time for violating a condition. Second time, 90 days. Third time, kicked out of the program, and rightfully so. If you are driving alone, effectively without a license, you don't deserve to have a license, ever, in my opinion. The deal is that if you, there's additional deals. One, you're not insured. So if that G1 alone crashes, the car is not getting repaired, even if you have insurance to cover comprehensive, things that are your fault. That's a problem. The person who lent them the vehicle gets charged under the HTA as well for allowing someone to drive in contravention of a condition. Now, if that owner says, well, I never gave him permission, they took it without consent, well, then, G1 driver, you're looking at criminal charges for take vehicle without consent. See? Not a good thing. Our Brazilian fan is here. Happy Friday to everybody from Evandro. Let's see here. I got to scroll back a little bit. At a light, neither side can go straight. We'll flag this one. I'll come back to it. And then a question here is, after being convicted, can a case be reopened? It depends. Are you appealing a decision, or are you appealing to a court because you forgot that Monday was your court date, you didn't show up, so as a result you were deemed to have not disputed, and then you were found guilty in your absence? In that situation, you can go to a justice of the peace and you can apply to have it reopened. I believe you have to pay for the fine prior to having it reopened, and then in the event that you are able to basically reverse the decision, they'd refund it to you. We got here. Boom, boom, boom. Bingo. Okay, hang on a second. Ottawa Services. Okay, we'll talk about that. Crosswalks. Bunny dash cam? I did not see the Bunny dash cam yet. Hang on, we'll talk about that. Are driving prohibitions from other provinces shown a CPIC? Okay, we'll talk about that. Stephen Bell wants everyone to drink responsibly. Cool. Are there any other way to speed up the G2 process? We'll talk about that. The answer is no, but we'll talk about it anyway. Driving around stop buses. Boy, there's lots of good questions. Oh, okay. Weaving in within your lane as a motorcycle rider. Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, we'll come back. We'll come back. Harder licensing, yeah. Okay, that's a great question. They want to know if they lost their G license but have their G2, can they still drive with that? Okay, seatbelt questions, lane splitting questions. And the Grinch is here. Okay, let's go back into I flag the stuff, then I can go back and look at it, and that way I don't lose it, because if I don't flag it, I won't see it. Okay, thin white line interceptor coming through. That's Ryan on Instagram. Says, happy Friday, bud. When at a railway crossing, after a train has passed and the gate is going up, we must wait until the crossing is completely raised and lights have turned off before proceeding. That is absolutely correct. And it's Rail Safety Week this week, as well as Child Passenger Safety Week, neither of which I've spoken about at all, and I feel bad. So now thank you for bringing it up and reminding me that I had totally planned on talking about it ad nauseum and didn't. So yeah, you have to wait until the gates are completely up and the lights are off. It is not something I see people do this all the time, and I refuse to move my vehicle until those lights are off. So people honk and freak out. I've seen people go into oncoming traffic. I've seen people do the zigzag while the gates are down because they didn't believe that a train was coming. I've seen terrible videos of people who did that and then got struck by trains and were subsequently killed. So trains, dangerous, fast, heavy, don't stop on a dime, can't swerve to avoid. Generally, the idea is you need to respect them and their space because, well, they don't even notice you. I was in Florida many years ago with my family, my parents, my brother. We were at a hotel and there was a DEA convention. I wasn't a cop, I was a kid. DEA convention, and a train struck a tanker that got stuck on the tracks. Obviously, fire, carnage, terrible. It was absolutely amazing to see how the officers there responded to the emergency. A sheriff's deputy ran and saved someone in the vehicle in front of them and dragged them out of their vehicle. Like it was just an amazing event. But if you don't see that, I guess you don't have the same appreciation for just how powerful these trains are. Like just anyway, I can talk about this for a while, and I want to go Google the articles about it because it was a big deal. Is doing 0 to 60 in 3 seconds illegal if the speed limit is 60? It can be. We talked about this earlier. Obviously, doing that is a launch, is a stunt, is a marked departure. It qualifies for stunt, and it could be careless. If it could be criminal if it's causing danger to other people. It's just not a smart move. If you want to do 0 to 60 rips and launch your vehicle, go to a track. Yeah. Can cars have windows tinted black? Tinted black, like completely blacked out, opaque, solid, no light transmission. If it's the rear windows, yeah, you have to have clear. You have to have clear view to the rear of the vehicle. That is a requirement. However, you cannot do that to the windows directly left and right of the driver or to the windshield. Windshield really would be problematic if you had a blacked out window. Can't see through that. Windows left and right of the driver can't have more than 30% light blockage for certification. Nothing can be on the front windshield. But when it comes to being able to see inside your vehicle, you cannot obscure the interior of your motor vehicle by way of tints or reflective coating. So you cannot do that for those windows. Hope that answers your question. So, question here is, I was rear-ended on a roadway and only have a partial plate. Is there any way to investigate? So, yes. Hopefully you have dash cam. If you don't, so be it. It is a reportable collision if there's more than, well, it's failed to remain. It's reportable. You come in, make a report, go to a collision report center and make a report. And we do have the ability of searching based on description and partial plates. And very often, we are able to identify other parties. I shouldn't say very often. Sometimes is more accurate because sometimes there's just not enough and we can't. But hopefully the information you have is sufficient to narrow it down and we can reach out and find someone. Amazing things are out there now. Video cameras are everywhere. People don't realize how often we are able to find people because of video on someone's dash cam, or a business has a front-facing camera, or a house has a Ring doorbell, and we get great information. By the way, major win. If you weren't aware of this, there was an event in the city of Toronto. A motorcycle rider, a gas-powered scooter rider. I call it a motorcycle scooter style. It requires a motorcycle license to operate it. This person was riding one without a license plate on it, intentionally made contact with a cyclist, sending them off their bicycle, who got seriously injured. And we had made a plea in social media asking for help from the public to identify this person, and we got him. People were calling in and writing in. They had spotted this person, and we have that person arrested. I'm so proud of both the work done by our officers, by members of the public who called in, who wrote in, who made themselves known that they had information to share, and as a result, good things happened. We got them. So very, very happy about that. And sometimes we get this great magical working where it all comes together. Very cool. Okay, we got that one covered. We talked about. Okay, here's a question. It's nowhere near as exciting as catching bad persons or persons who chose to hurt other people. But at a light, neither side can go straight. If I'm turning left and the car goes straight and we collide, whose fault is it? At a light, neither side can go straight. I don't get your scenario exactly. So if no one can go straight, how can someone go straight? Ultimately, if you're turning and you're turning across the path of travel of the other vehicles, because your question sort of contradicts itself. But if someone's going straight and you turn and they hit you, you're turning, you're responsible. You're responsible for making sure that you can complete your turn in safety. And that means being psychic and predicting what the other person is doing. You have to wait. But you're saying that the other person couldn't go. So if they couldn't go, how did they go? I don't get it. I'm an Uber Eat driver. Can I park in taxi permit zone? No, because you're not a taxi. Taxi permit zone, taxi. Uber Eat driver, not taxi. Sorry. It's a pretty simple one. You can use side streets with an on-delivery sign. That is a great question for the TPS parking account on TikTok, but that's ultimately the deal. You cannot park in zones that very clearly say taxi. Host, okay, here's a question from TikTok. Are you for or against license plates for bike delivery riders and ticketing and accountability? I make no qualms about that. I would put license plates on rollerbladers. I think that everyone needs to be clearly identifiable if they're on the road. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that pedestrians, but if you're on a bicycle, if you're on an e-bike, if you're on a kick scooter, which is, by the way, prohibited in the city of Toronto, if you're on anything that is using the road, absolutely. And if you're a delivery rider, of course, you are a professional. You're not someone who's just getting to where they're going. You're driving or riding for a living. You should absolutely be held accountable for the choices you make when you're putting others at risk. So yes, I am absolutely for it, which causes a lot of. Not everybody likes what I have to say about that, but I want people to be safe. I want people to be respectful on the road. I want people to not put others at risk, and that means that you have to be able to hold them accountable. And if they're not plated, how are we supposed to do that? Just saying. Akila mentioned that Bingo is getting a celebration of life ceremony. I didn't realize it was happening right now. And rightfully, Bingo was a Toronto police canine officer who was shot and killed saving his handler. Right? There was an event, bad guy with a gun shot him, and it's horrible. I don't care if you're a dog or horse. If you were a Toronto police pigeon, you deserve better than to be injured or killed. And they are police officers. They're not just dogs. They're serving the community. They have purpose. They work. And it was a tragedy to lose Bingo, and I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm actually sorry that I'm not watching. Question was, okay, so this is a follow-up in relation to the no left, no straight, no. So the comment is, no, both sides of the light have no straight signs, only left or right's allowed. So the person who crosses through and hits the person turning is doing so in contravention of a sign. It's possible that both persons could be charged, but obviously the person going straight through at that point is more wrong. So they could both be charged, but more likely that if the person turning across the person going straight through, I would I would make them driver number one. Is it possible that you could charge the person turning because you have to ensure your turn can be completed in safety? Yeah, but I don't think it would fit then if there's a sign. So thanks for the clarification. Are you attending the memorial services in Ottawa this weekend? That is my plan. If all my ducks in a row, my plan is to head to Ottawa and participate in the services on Sunday. It's a quick in and out. I won't be there for long. And that's if everything goes well. That's currently the plan. And I hope it works out. What is this? We have a question from Michael, who may not be asking a question. He might be making a statement. Let's see here. It's dangerous to go through crosswalks. Some not good at all. Drivers will fail to stop. Try this again. It is dangerous to go through crosswalks. Some not good at all drivers will fail to stop at stop sign or red light or stare left only. We have a lot of people who fit into that category of not paying attention while driving. It's totally unacceptable. Um, crosswalks are kind of the obvious point of contact where I say point of contact. I don't mean physical contact. I mean, that pedestrians are going to be there. It should be the place where you have the most heightened focus and looking to make sure you're keeping people safe. NHL 14 Freak says, can you call 911 when driving if you think someone is drunk? I thought you asked this question. Somebody asked this question yesterday. Yes, you can. There's an exemption under the Highway Traffic Act that allows for people calling for an emergency to use their phone even if they don't have a Bluetooth or hands-free. It means in an emergency, you can pick up your phone and dial because the person that you're calling for is very specifically going to put someone or is putting people at risk of safety as possible harm or death. So absolutely be doing the right thing. If you have a doorbell camera and police want to see video, you need to show it to them. Do you need to? It's a good thing to. You are helping the community. You are contributing. Could they get a warrant for it? They could if they thought it was material. Most people are more than willing to share. Joining me now is Brian Max. For as long as his video camera will, or his device will remain connected. Are we trying new technology today?
No, we're trying a new browser.
Oh, okay.
Or a different browser, not new, but a different browser. So good morning.
A new version, because Chrome seems to be the best, but at least on this platform.
That's what I've been using previously. So we'll see how this goes. I'm on the latest Firefox, still on my MacBook Pro.
Well, it's working so far. We'll see if he zip out. So just for everyone, expect that his video may disappear and then reappear. And then we'll laugh, and then it'll disappear and reappear. It's not at all annoying.
Yeah. If that happens, I may simply just jump over on my phone.
Very good. For those who don't know who Brian is, I mentioned I sort of mentioned your bio earlier, but you're a radio host, journalist in the automotive space. You do the Dave's Corner Garage thing. You're a YouTuber, recently TikToker. Are you enjoying TikTok?
Not really. It's just not my thing. It's not my thing. I should spend more time there, but it's one of those things. Running a race team and then doing everything else that I do is challenging enough.
And so I sort of segued before getting into a race car driver. You were instructing on tracks, and also you have a race team and a beautiful car and cars now, right? Plural cars. Two cars.
We based on some decisions we made this week, we're adding more race cars to the fleet.
Right on. Well, that is very cool. We have a bunch of questions, and maybe we weigh in on some of these. You can jump down and see here. Can you see these questions? Let's see.
I can see some of them. I don't see all of them.
Oh, let's see here. Is there? A lot of people want to know, and this is something that's happened, or a question that was covered twice already, but they want to know if they can do 0 to 60 as fast as possible, launch mode on the road. And of course, we have some issues with that because it's a potentially dangerous situation. But as from the perspective of a race car guy, is that a good idea?
Not unless you're trained. I mean, it's really not a good idea because as much as it can be exciting. If you're not accustomed to that much acceleration, you're simply going to be overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, which is why we see all those videos of cars leaving Cars and Coffee and, doing a little bit of a burnout and they lose control and they crash into a tree or whatever.
Did you see the Montreal one?
No,
it was a BMW that left a Porsche dealership and promptly planted itself in a tree or the grass, like some combination. It was pretty sad.
Yeah. So, it's easy. It's easy for me to sit back and say, well, people are overwhelmed in those situations, and genuinely they are. But I've been teaching race driving and performance driving since 1995, I think. So, it's very difficult for someone who is unfamiliar with the front wheels losing traction or the rear wheels losing traction or some combination thereof in order to control that situation. I've been doing it for a really long time. I do it on the racetrack regularly. It's not difficult for me. And this comes back to our usual point of, if you want to learn how to do this stuff, take it to the track.
And Cam says, the only way to train is to practice by doing it. But our thing is practicing by doing it, but doing it in a safe manner. And the comment I think also from Cam is, but it's just doing it to the speed limit. What could be wrong with that? And there are some issues there.
And well, first of all, I'm certain there are several laws that apply, at least in Ontario and other jurisdictions. But again, if you're unfamiliar with that, you really want to explore that, do it at the racetrack. Don't do it on the road. It's really not safe. And one of the fundamental reasons I will recommend doing that on the racetrack is because it's a very safe environment. The road surface is what the road surface is on public roads. They can change. So even though it may be a road you've driven on, for 10 years straight, the conditions on that public road may change from day to day, whether somebody throws down gravel, there's who knows what kind of debris, there's a pothole that's developed. All of those things on the surface of the road impact the way the car will react. And if you're unfamiliar with any of these things,
and he dropped. And he's back.
Right. Okay. So what I'm going to do?
It's not the browser.
It is not the browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join.
Although this is not being bad. I mean, we can survive with this.
Well, we'll see. If it goes badly, then we'll jump over on the phone.
If it starts getting more frequent, yeah. Question from NHL 14 Freak, specifically for Brian. And by the way, anyone who wants to ask Brian a question, ask Brian a question. How often do you have access to a race car guy, journalist, new car reviewer? A guy with a Panerai. Is that what I just caught a glimpse of?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we talked about that.
Nope.
Anyway, we both like watches. Brian, do you think that slow drivers are more of a problem than speeding?
Yes, unequivocally. I genuinely think that the speed at which you're driving is completely disconnected from how attentive you are from the process of driving. And it's easy for me to say that slow drivers are the dangerous ones on the road, but generally it's anecdotal. But what I see is slow drivers are the ones who are completely oblivious to what's going on. I will present one theory. No, I can. I do see that question, and I'll talk about that later. My old pal Jim Kenzie, one of the quintessential Canadian automotive journalists, posited years and years ago that it and this is a broad theory and a deeper theory than what I'm going to be able to discuss here, but it was that driving, if you're paying, you're driving 10% faster than the average speed of traffic, you're generally going to be safer. And so it was a theory that he posited in the Toronto Star Wheels section many years ago. And
how'd that go for everyone? That's not obviously a popular suggestion when it comes to the law.
I think it was a different era. It was a different era, Sean. So there's a little more tolerance for that sort of thing. And I mean, anecdotally, from my experience, I would say that's generally the case. When I drive. I'm not on my phone. I'm not not looking at what's on it. If there's a crash on the other side of the highway, I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. I have a responsibility as a driver because I'm higher skilled than everybody else. If there is an emergency on the road, like I've done several times, I can kind of control traffic. If something has happened way in front of me, then I can kind of, if
I think we're going to lose him. His connection has suddenly gone wonky. We'll see when he starts moving again. In the meantime, he started moving again.
Yeah, I'm gonna ring in from my phone because I'm
okay.
I'm
we'll await your return.
Yes. All right. Sounds good.
Okay. While he's doing that, I noticed a couple of questions come in, and I look forward to doing this. We're going to chat with Brian some more, and then we'll be focused on your questions again, and then we're joining Jerry Agar live in Toronto on the it is News Talk 1010 AM 1010, talking about automated enforcement in particular. That's what they want to talk about. Let's see here. We've got hand signal questions. Turning left on a red. Okay. 1 second there. I flagged it, but I want to flag it here. Okay. Are windshield stickers illegal? We'll talk about that. What's Brian's opinion on electric cars? I definitely know that he's got things to talk about. Ask a race car driver. Love it. That's a great suggestion, Michael. Okay. And then the question from Chase, we'll ask him when he comes back. Can Brian be the Canadian Doug Jamiro? I like Doug's videos. What are the new crosswalks that flat for drivers? What are the new rule for new crosswalks that flat? You mean flash for drivers? Are we talking about pedestrian crossovers? We can talk about that. Brian's back. Let's see what. Hello, and you. It seems to be better.
Well, we're on my phone, and you know why? It's because I'm not even on my Wi-Fi. So
your data, you're doing the data burn.
Yes.
So while you were doing that, we could address. I brought it up on screen saying we would address it, but
okay.
Can you be the Canadian Doug Jamiro?
I don't treat my audience as I respect my audience, and I treat them with the intelligence they deserve, is how I'm going to phrase that.
Are you suggesting that he is a little condescending, possibly sometimes maybe?
Not condescending, but like Mark Twain said, no one ever went broke underestimating the intelligence of or the tastes of the masses. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I just don't dumb down my content. It's intended for people who love cars and love driving, and there's I also have a responsibility to share some of the knowledge that I've gained over 30 years of racing cars, and I don't. So on YouTube, I don't push buttons. I don't talk about the quirks of cars. I talk about how they drive and how fundamentally what that driver and car interface is like, because that's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Because number one for me is driving. Second thing is what the car is all about. And yeah, sure, I love cars, but I love driving a little bit more.
Right on. They want to know your opinion, Chase, in particular. Oh, by the way, someone said Brian question. They're coming up with acronyms for the segment. Brian question or ask a race car driver. The ARCT. Good. These are good things. I like this.
Yeah, we can do that.
So, question from Chase is: what's Brian's opinion on whether electric cars will actually take over like the government seems to be pushing?
I have a very clear opinion on that, and that's because I'm at the head of this. I mean, I enjoy driving some electric cars. Some are just terrible. But my view on any kind of vehicle is whether I find it interesting or not, and that can be electric. That said, electric cars will not take over. It is technically not possible. Just from a material standpoint, there are not enough raw materials to meet the requirements of every car being manufactured as an electric. We simply don't have the manufacturing capacity or the I mean, we'd have to, like some of those fantastical Hollywood films, we'd have to go and pull down an asteroid and extract all the rare earths from
interesting. I
off this
thought
planet.
of it from that perspective, but I was just thinking about if we all plugged in at the same time, the lights would all go out. That's when we have our air conditioning on all at the same time.
Precisely. So that I mean, that's I mean, I can argue that point as well, but we don't have the infrastructure for that already. I mean, we've all heard about blackouts and brownouts all over this part of the world, let alone other parts of the world. It's quite bizarre where we've got these arbitrary targets that governments have set to for EV production. What's happening now is the inventories of EVs are increasing, so people aren't buying them. Mm-hmm. So all the early adopters have purchased them. Regular car buyers are not interested, so EV inventories keep increasing. But despite all of these targets for EV production, no government has taken upon themselves to improve the basic infrastructure. We just don't have the capacity to charge electric cars, even if it's off hours. Like it doesn't exist. And on top of that, I have to say the EV charging infrastructure on the go still is not even close
to where we are with internal combustion engines. Everybody, there's no trouble getting gasoline or diesel anywhere, but with EV charging, I test them often enough. I've finally been impacted by a less than robust on the go fast charging infrastructure where several machines aren't working, and I was counting on something, and actually I literally had to turn around from where I was and go back home to where I knew I had a reliable charger.
It does not sound like fun to me.
It's not. It's not. So, yeah, we don't have enough rare earths on this planet to fulfill the objectives that governments have set across the world. We don't have a reliable or robust electrical infrastructure. It just simply doesn't exist in this part of the world. And then there are several other problems. And what we're seeing on the new car side of the business is that EVs are not being adopted by consumers.
Very interesting. We have a question about how. It's a Brian question, BQ. That's very interesting. I like this. How do you get racing license in Canada, and how much does it cost?
Well, the second part of that question is the most important question in racing, because race cars don't run on gasoline; they run on cash. There are several racing schools around. Feel free to reach out to me on social, and I can point you in the right direction. There are enough schools around where you can easily obtain a racing license. And the next question is, where do you go from there? And it's all a matter of how much your budget will allow to go racing. And our budgets for our AMGs are well into the seven figures annually. So it's never been inexpensive. And unfortunately, it's the nature of motorsport. It's the most unusual sport there is, and for me, it's the most rewarding one.
Now, first thing, did I spell everything correctly there?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So if you want to follow Brian on Twitter, Brian Max is the place to be.
On every platform at Brian Max.
Easy. So I should take Twitter off and just say that's just your name.
Yeah.
And YouTube, and it was a YouTube Brian Max Drives. You had a couple of accounts at one point.
I've got one that just sits dormant, but no, YouTube is at Brian Max as well.
Very good. All right. There is. Okay, so the question, which is how do you get involved, which the first one was how to get a license and how do you do it, but Michael wants to know how do you get involved. Sort of the same question.
It's the same thing. I mean, I kind of jumped in the deep end straight away, went to racing school and went racing. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And I mean, the best thing to do is go to racing school, go to a good racing school. There are some performance driving schools that maybe out there that kind of look like racing schools, but they're not. So you got to do your research. There are a couple of really good racing schools in Canada and several in the United States. The best thing to do is do your research, go to racing school, and then figure it out from there.
We've got a question, a request to get a show of your car. Do you have a video out on your car? I mean, the team has socials, and they can check it out there.
The race cars are definitely out there. My personal cars, I don't put on YouTube.
Okay. Moderator is signing off at 11 o'clock. We won't have any new questions after that.
Okay.
But don't say goodbye. We will be going right to 11:30. At 11:20, probably around 11:15, we're going to be joined by Jerry Agar and talking about some enforcement stuff. We'll keep going with your questions and try and catch up then. I do have a hard end at 11:30 after the radio segment. I got to go and do a presentation to St. Mike's for the Tipsy program. So that is a cool thing.
Cool.
I wanted to circle back and discuss and so, by the way, moderator, take care. Thanks for the help. My moderator's my wife, by the way, who's at home and helping out because JD is not here today. So there you go. So to wrap up, first of all, your race car. What is the racing team social so we can send people that they want to see your very nice looking race cars?
Yeah, thank you. So that's all. Just like I managed to secure for myself when we decided on the team name, we secured all the socials, all the web addresses. It's all the same. It's Thaze Comp. So THAZE COMP on every platform.
Very cool. Now, circling back to the discussion about slow drivers, because I meant to comment on this, and that is, what is your opinion of what is slow? So is slow the speed limit? Like, I sort of want to get, like, right now we're seeing people who are obviously driving well above the posted speed limit.
Yeah.
And the issue is that there are people who want to do the right thing and should be doing the right thing, because no one should be driving above the posted speed limit. It's illegal. I agree that slow drivers that are doing 40 and a 90 is a major problem. Even 30 kilometers below, really you got to reevaluate what you're doing. But if you're traveling within 10 kilometers an hour of the posted speed limit, you're staying to the right, and you're not speeding because you're not giving in to peer pressure. I have that is where you should be. And those that are choosing to go faster, they do the left lane, and if they get caught, that's on them. I'm not going to try and pretend that me asking people to follow the law is going to actually result in it happening. But I really want to double down on that. Speeding's illegal. You can't do it. But if you are going to follow the law, stay to the right, stay out of the way of the people, because what will happen is the speeder will choose to then pass on the right, weave through traffic, and it makes for an unsafe environment. You're not the cause of the unsafe environment at that point, because the speeder's choosing to engage at that point. It's just a balance of things. I get what you were saying also, that the person who's focused on driving and is skilled at doing so may actually be a better driver. The person who's doing 40 under the speed limit is probably on their phone.
Or simply oblivious to what's going on around them. So in terms of like characterizing a slow driver, I think outside of the legal definition, it's somebody who's traveling below the average speed of traffic. And that I mean, practically speaking, that's, I drive in the GTA every day and on all kinds of roads, and regardless of the speed limit, there is an average speed at which traffic flows. And when someone is traveling below that, that's when I see people start moving to the right instead of to the left.
Very important to stay out of the left if you're not keeping up with that flow, even if that flow is illegal. I'm not telling people to speed. I'm telling people not to speed and just stay to the right. So my messaging is very clear. I stay in the right lane, the far most right lane. The only thing at time I'm out of that right lane is when I know that the lane is going to fork onto another, like for instance, approaching the DVP split to the 401.
Yep.
I'm going to get out of the right lane, start moving over to the left so I can be on the appropriate highway. Okay.
Yep.
Beating that topic to death. Let's see here. Question is, I press the button and we wait. Hey, Sean, if I get caught going 180 in a 90, what would the fines and consequences be? It's a bad day at the office for you.
That's going to be that's going to turn into a whole series of events that you don't want to participate in.
Well, so at the very minimum, it's stunt driving, 14-day vehicle impound, 30 days license suspension. Once you are finished in court, and if you're convicted, $2,000 to $10,000 fine, up to 6 months in jail, insurance rates that will change your life, and that's the first conviction. Oh, and a 1 to 3 year driving prohibition as well. The second conviction, same fine range, 2 to 10,000, up to 6 months in jail, and a 3 to 10 year driving prohibition. Third conviction, you're looking at a lifetime ban in addition to the financial consequences. But at 180 and a 90, I'd probably be looking to charge you criminally, in addition to stunt, for dangerous drive. And at that point, you're looking at even more serious consequences. It's a bad idea, and there's no reason to go that speed on a city street. And a 90 zone is really a city highway or as opposed to a 400 series highway. There's on any road in Ontario, by simply going over 150, regardless of the speed limit, it's stunt driving. Like, it's a bad idea. This is race car speeds.
The problem is it's the speed differential between a car traveling at 180 kilometers an hour and cars traveling at the speed limit, and drivers simply aren't anticipating that speed differential, and won't be, they're not accustomed to seeing it. They generally won't see it. Unlike driving on the Autobahn, which is a completely different argument. especially in the open zones, they're accustomed to seeing that speed differential. But in this part of the world, it doesn't exist, and you're creating a dangerous situation for yourself and everybody around you, just simply because of that speed differential.
It's a dumb move. It's there's no justification for it, and it's just thrill seeking at this point. There's nothing that you can tell me that would justify that speed on our roads. Just nothing.
Nope.
Here's a question that also applies to you as a content creator. You're a cop. How do you get the time to make videos, edit them, and post them so often? Well, I live stream Monday to Friday. I'm a cop, yes, but I don't go on the road. I'm a media relations officer. I'm an officer who focuses on educating people about traffic law. So I have many things that I do, but I don't go on the road and patrol anymore. So that is why I have the unique ability to produce content at the volume that I do. How about you? How do you do what you do?
Well, first of all, I'm at the whim of the weather in this part of the world. When I'm in California, I can rely on consistent weather. But here, I'm at the whim of weather, and what I try to do is be ready to go from the moment I receive a new car, and get as much shot as possible, and then save my opinions until the end of my time with the vehicle. So for example, last week, because I was familiar with the car, shot the episode immediately. This week, I'm not shooting the car I'm driving until tomorrow.
And just for anyone who's trying to figure out what you're talking about, you review vehicles and write and do video reviews of them, and you're lent these vehicles by manufacturers to evaluate them. So you have different vehicles all the time, and you have to basically shoot an entire episode during the period of time in which you have that vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to acknowledge Robbie, who says, good morning, and I just want to say thank you for the live stream, and thank you for keeping everyone safe on the road. So sorry.
That's great. The thing is today, most cars are can't be faulted, save for a few minor things. But for me, it comes down to how the car handles. And it's got to be responsive to me as a driver. And I've been holding on to an episode for a little while, but I'm finally publishing it in a couple of weeks. I don't like being negative, but I think it's important that I share it. So I've got a review where fundamentally it's a negative review. It rarely happens, but it's coming, and it's one of those cars that I can't recommend to anybody.
And that's okay.
We'll see. So it's especially in a smaller country like Canada, I am sure the manufacturer will react negatively to that review.
Listen, I was told a long time ago that if I'm not upsetting someone every day, I'm not doing my job. So
fair enough, and that is why I'm blacklisted by more than one car manufacturer in Canada.
For your honesty, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's true.
We have a question of what's the difference between dangerous driving and stunt driving? They're very similar. One of them is criminal intent. It's part of criminality, and it's putting lives at risk, so much so that it clearly falls into the category of you knew it was dangerous, you did it anyway, and you didn't care. And I think that's this most simplified way of describing it. I could read the actual dictionary definition of it, but that's essentially it. Stunt driving has like 15 different ways of triggering it, from intentional loss of traction, burnouts, drifting, all those things. And you could be doing that alone. But you do that in front of people at a car event where people can get hurt, that's criminal dangerous driving. So you can see how there's a threshold difference. And it is easy to get to criminal. In fact, you can get to criminal dangerous driving by speed alone. Originally, it was thought that it wouldn't apply unless it was like incredible combinations of driving and lane changes. And no, speed alone can constitute criminality. Lane splitting.
Oh, my favorite subject.
Well, when you're in LA, it's legal, and for those who don't know, Brian goes back and forth to LA a lot. So there.
Very legal there, and I travel so often that I as the plane's descending into LAX, it's like, oh, that's my cue. Remember, I'll see lane splitters on, in the next 30 minutes as soon as I jump in the car. And that's exactly what happens here. It's not legal. And probably for good reason. My view is that reason, from my perspective, that the number one factor is that there's not a lot of motorcycles on the road in the winter, and given the skill level of drivers, they're not going to remember that 6 months ago that motorcycles were lane splitting, and every spring we'd end up with a situation with a bunch of collisions and people getting hurt, which is not good. But it's not part of driving culture, and in my view, it shouldn't be legal. But I'm seeing it more so this year than ever before. And I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago to you, there's a gentleman lane splitting on Don Mills southbound. I was driving a super hot car. He lane split between the two rows of traffic, stopped beside my car to give me the thumbs up. I looked at his motorcycle. He didn't have a license plate on it.
Shocking.
Yeah, exactly. Lane splitter and didn't have a license plate on his
probably
sport bike.
means no insurance, possibly no license, maybe, there's so many things that come with that. But sadly, the behavior of lane splitting tends to go with people who choose not to stop for police and have other elements to their story. Speed differential is a huge problem with it. We talked about that earlier. These bikes are going faster than the cars. And have you paid attention to what we talk about here a lot? Cars are generally not doing the right thing. So these are high risk situations. And for lane splitting, we have careless if it's somewhat reasonable speed. We've got stunt if it's a marked departure and people are weaving in and out. And we've got criminal dangerous driving also eligible for lane splitting. And it's not something that you can do anywhere in Canada. I'm not aware of any province that allows it.
I don't think so. And I haven't seen it exactly firsthand, but a couple of summers ago, my YouTuber pal Motoman was here, and he was driving, and we ended up in some slow traffic, and to my right, I saw a motorcycle splitting the lanes on the 401. I'm like, oh, this is not good. And a few seconds down the road, a car was changing lanes, and that motorcycle ended up running into the back of the car. The rider went flying, and as I discovered, the rider survived, but it was not good. He was unconscious when we got to the scene.
So aside from the fact that there's a collision, a motorcyclist is injured, maybe killed, they create the situation. Even if the driver up ahead did something that ultimately created that collision, that speed, that putting the bike somewhere that it wasn't expected, all these things together turn into a situation where multiple people are not only injured, traumatized, inconvenienced, money spent, and all it would take is someone to sort of take a breath and realize that getting to wherever they're going takes a little longer because it's traffic, and a motorcycle is not a solution for traffic. It's just another way to drive.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Is there any way to speed up the G2 process by taking without taking driving school? No. Unless you're coming from another country and you have a license, they can accelerate it. That's the only way you can get your G2 faster. 8 months versus 12. And you know what? You're a big proponent of professional driving. That means professional driver instruction. I would not want anyone driving without taking a professional course. I went to Young Drivers when I was a kid. I took professional driving training with police. Everything you do behind the wheel of a car with a professional instructor makes you a better, safer driver. Don't skip out on that, and don't be in a rush to get to the next level.
Yeah, totally agree. And especially driving in a big city like this, it can be really overwhelming, and driving is one of the most difficult things that the average person does.
Here's a racing-esque question, because the question is it illegal to move from side to side inside your own lane while riding a motorcycle? I think what you're talking about is the weaving to worm the tires of a motorcycle. And you know all about tires, Brian, so I figure that's the racing connection. Do motorcycles need to warm up their tires to drive in city streets and city speeds?
No, not at all. I'm about to publish a short or a reel on YouTube about somebody at a track day not feeling confident with their car because their tires weren't warm yet. It was a road car. and it was a demonstration run, so we had a good chuckle over that. If it's to warm tires, I mean, the problem is you're not sustaining enough load, whether you're on a motorcycle or in a car. On public roads, you're not sustaining enough load into the tire to maintain heat in that tire, so it stays at that optimum tire temperature. The only way you can achieve that kind of tire temperature on any tire, whether it's a race tire or a street tire, is on the racetrack, because you're simply not at the limit of grip of the tire for that long. And we're talking about public roads, so you go from corner and you're followed by a straight, and on that straight the tire cools down, so you can't maintain that. So the weaving thing is just bizarre.
To me, it's an indicator that you're not a professional or trained rider.
Yes.
You think you know stuff that you don't actually know, or you're planning on doing some dumb stuff up ahead. So we should really look at pulling you over, or you're impaired. Either way, there's reasons to investigate you.
Now, here's a question for you, Sean. If a motorcycle rider is in the on a lovely road and is taking a track line that you would normally use on the racetrack, but within the lane. So, in racing, we basically go from the outside of the corner to the inside of the corner to the outside of the corner. And, that's the gist of it. So if a rider is staying perfectly within the lane, but taking that line through the lane, is that legal?
Sure. Because, and as a motorcycle rider, and for those who don't know, I've been riding since I was 16. I've ridden all sorts of motorcycles. I've ridden, the mountain wonderful passes, and I've been a motor squad officer for a long time. The lane is yours. You have different optimal blocking positions and riding positions for your safety. But if you have to lean and get down in there, you obviously can't do that into oncoming traffic. You would edge out to the other side of the lane. But that's one of the reasons why, if I was riding and another rider decided to bop through my space, they can't pass within the lane. That would be unsafe. It's my lane. It's all my lane. And everything else would be a dangerous maneuver. But yeah, you totally can change within. And even for the person weaving within the lane, although it's pointless and silly looking, it's not illegal. But it is a reason to talk to somebody.
Yeah, it's a good reason to talk to somebody, because genuinely they don't know what they're doing. And when if you're a fan of racing and you see the cars weaving from side to side during a yellow flag situation or a warm-up lap, there's much more to it than that. They're not warming up the tires by just weaving side to side. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but it is not what it looks like.
Right on. This is something you might see in your neighborhood. Is it illegal when people are driving around stopped buses to turn right at a red?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a you question, but I'm sure there's several laws that say you can't do that.
Here's the thing. How much of a rush are you in that you can't wait for that bus to service and let 3 people on or off the bus? I mean, you're not that important. But the deal is that you cannot make a right turn across another lane. That bus is a live lane, even if they're stopped. It's an improper turn, so you can be charged for that. It's unsafe. That bus, if you surprise them, because they're not expecting you to do that, and they put the bus into motion, doing everything right, they're going to meet you in the middle, and it's going to be a collision, and you're the one who caused it. Excuse me. Then there's there is a potential that if the bus stop was far enough back that you could safely enter the lane in front of the bus and then make a right turn. Possible, but just silly. It's just silly. Wait, patience. There is one time where I would say that I would endorse you going around, and that is where the bus has actually got its triangle out, it's disabled, it's blocking the lane, it's not going anywhere. That changes everything. But passing a bus because you're impatient, not okay.
No, that sort of thing happens in my neighborhood all the time.
That's why I thought you'd have an opinion on it.
Yes.
Okay. What is this one? Traffic. This is also something that I think you'd have an opinion on. We need harder licensing graduation. I see many bad drivers on the road. People are on their phones. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're distracted driving is one thing, but in my opinion, the tests in Ontario to achieve the different levels of the license are far too easy, simply based on the driving skill and lack of courtesy that I see among drivers in a broad sense.
That is the thing. Brian, I've got News Talk that just connected.
Okay.
I'll give you a call after the show, but thanks for hanging out for a little while. I'm going to
My
do
pleasure.
a quick sound check for them before we go live in 5 minutes.
Yes.
So this cell phone thing worked?
Yeah, we might have to do this again.
Yes, especially with that. It's much more stable. I like it.
Good.
And the coloring is good. And either way, I'll give you a call later today. Thanks for popping in. And
thanks for having
everyone who wants to follow Brian on all social media platforms. It's at Brian Max. And I have that to put on screen. And of course, Thay's Comp is the race team, and you can go and follow them there too, because I've seen you guys racing. It is amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. It's a lot of fun, and we do a lot more than Race Car Go Vroom, so we've got a lot of good content on our socials.
Race Car Go Vroom, awesome. All right, cool, Brian. We'll catch you later, and
all right,
let's get News Talk into the room. Hi, News Talk. How are you? Can you hear me?
Good. How are you, Sean?
Doing well, so we're good to go. Let me know if you give me a text update. I'm going to answer some questions for the people in the watching, and then whenever you're ready to go, feed us some audio. We'll go from there.
Sounds good. It'll be in just about 3 minutes here.
3 minutes. Awesome. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay. Now I'm going to try and race through some of the questions that have been you've been waiting so patiently for. Much appreciated. Okay. Driving prohibitions from other provinces on CPIC. Yes, we can see that. Also, if you are suspended in another province, your Ontario license is suspended here. It is and vice versa. If you get suspended in Ontario and you decide to drive and say you now live somewhere else in another province, get a license there, you are still prohibited in Ontario. And really, all provinces would consider you prohibited. My understanding is everywhere. But if you're prohibited anywhere, you're prohibited here. Yeah. Okay. I saw someone run from the police. What is the charge for that? Fail to stop, flee from police. There's a couple of options. It depends what we're talking about. But what is the consequence or what is the charge? No, what is the charge? That's what the question was. Yeah, you kind of have to stop for the police. Okay. Where there's a yield sign installed between two lanes, who has the right of way? This is a mall location, Fairview Mall. The deal is that if you're entering if you're in a chute that you're coming in from another road, you have to yield to the main road that you're entering. Hey, we're just about to connect with News Talk 1010.
All right, well, maybe I'll sit down and look at it.
Sure. We've got Sergeant Campbell just joining us. I'll scooch over. We got like 2 minutes before you jump in. Our driving prohibitions, we'd already covered that. Avandro wants to know, how much is the fine for passengers, adults who don't wear a seatbelt? $240. No points for passengers, though. Mind you, if it is someone who is under the age of 16, the driver gets the ticket. It's always fun when the drivers volunteer their money. But I wouldn't let anyone, I would not drive with someone unbelted in my car.
No, absolutely
It's
not.
a condition of being a passenger in my vehicle.
Especially if it's a child. I mean, you're the driver. You're responsible for them. That person maybe not old enough to make the decisions. You got to make the decisions for them.
But even if I had an adult in the car, first of all, I don't want to hear bing, bing, bing as I drive. That's one. Two, in the event that something happened, I don't want that on my conscience. 30 seconds, so we're going to go silent for a few seconds as we wait for Jerry Agar to jump in the room. Yes, we'll just freeze frame. We need some quiet theme music. Okay, I'll mute you for a second there. All right. Any minute now.
Listen anytime, anywhere to News Talk 1010 Toronto through your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Jerry Agar continues on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
Thanks for being along. It's a Friday. That means we have touchdowns and fumbles in half an hour from now. And yes, we have a question for you to vote on. Premier Doug Ford is canceling his plan to adjust the Greenbelt boundaries to help get more housing built. He said, despite his best intentions and being motivated by the right reasons, He has ultimately determined the plan was a mistake, and he's sorry. Our question to you, purely from the communication standpoint, was that announcement a touchdown or a fumble? If you think it was the right message, and that it will, as the Premier said he hopes it will, help rebuild trust, text the letters TD to 71010 and we'll count your vote as a touchdown. Just those two letters, TD. If you think he should have stayed the course, yesterday's announcement only reinforces all the suggestions of scandal around the issue. Text the word fumble to 71010 and we'll count your vote that way. Fumble to 71010. Bob Reed joins us at 11:50. So once again, this is how CP24 reports it. Toronto's least favorite speed camera issued a whopping 3,502 tickets in the past month, according to organizers from the traffic safety group Safe Parkside. They're advocating for speeding hindrances on Parkside Drive. This is like over 100 tickets a day from that camera. And joining me to follow up on this, Sean Shapiro, the TikTok traffic cop. Sean, good morning.
Good morning.
Are we barging in on your TikTok show again?
We hung out late. We usually finish at 11. We stuck around for you, and we're happy to do it.
Well, I appreciate that. So what's going on? I have a couple of questions. This morning, somebody said to me, I hate those traffic cameras. And I said, why? Are you always speeding? And she said, no, I think you can get a ticket from those cameras if you're like 1 or 2 kilometers over. Is that true?
It's not 1 or 2. There's a threshold. I don't even know what it is, and I don't want to know what it is. The idea is that there's a slight threshold, and if you're over that, you're definitely speeding, and yeah, it'll issue a ticket, but it's more than 2 or 3.
Well, I've moved, but for a long time, I lived in an area in Etobicoke where I went by one of the ones that's always at the top of the list of numbers of tickets that it gives out. And I know that I was cognizant that it was there. I never got a ticket because of that camera, but I know I had to have sometimes been at least a few kilometers over.
Yeah, and the idea is they put it there, and they're looking for, of course, people who are absolutely going over, more than something questionable like the size of your tire or the inaccuracy of your speedometer. Someone who's speeding in a 30 or 40 zone knows they're speeding.
Yeah, but why would it be that this one particular area, Parkside, 3,502 tickets in the past month, that's over 100 tickets a day. I think there's a hill there. Like, what's going on?
I'm speculating that it's because it's a cut through to get to the highway. It's a major route for persons who are entering and leaving the city, and then there's a lot of people who just don't follow the laws. So there's a combination of that makes it a ripe location. Many of the speed cameras are in areas that are sort of off the beaten path, in front of a school, less popular. This is one that's a very heavily traveled route.
You'd think people would know it was there.
Well, with their signage, it warns them.
Yeah.
The fact is they're probably busy on their phone. I don't know. The truth is that the people who choose to exceed the speed limit or don't care about speed limits, they're the reason that these cameras exist.
The one difference between a camera, tell me if I'm wrong here, between a camera and a cop is the cop knows who the driver is. The camera is only ticketing the car.
Right. So there's a modified or a special charge under the Highway Traffic Act specific to red lights and actually school buses now, and of course speed for these, and it makes it owner responsibility. It's laid against your license plate, not the driver. So there's no demerit points involved, but the fines are doubled because it's a community safety zone, which makes it a pretty hefty hit. But you look at Europe, they take pictures of the driver and they give points to the driver, even on automated enforcement cameras there.
Okay. Well, this is kind of a cash cow for the city, isn't it?
I don't know if it works out that way, because a lot of people dispute it, then go to court, and then there's a whole process. The idea is to change driver behavior. The hope is that one ticket will entice someone to never do it again. But we hear about people who get multiple tickets and just consider it the cost of doing business, I guess.
Okay. Well, according to this report from CP24, the city of Toronto has collected over $3 million in fines from that camera.
No kidding. Well, you know what? I think that the city needs as much money as they can get. We have a lot of programs, a lot of things.
Yeah.
And if these drivers who choose to break the law are donating the money to help us along, that's lovely.
Well, I would have a complaint, I think, if the speed limit, let's say it's 40, and I get the camera sends me a ticket and it says 42. That just seems picky. Like, how much safer are we if I'm going 2 kilometers slower? If I'm going 55, okay, well, that's on me.
Well, the truth is, anything over the posted speed limit is speeding, and we all really have to sort of tune in and be aware of what we're doing. Again, these cameras are not taking 2 or 3 kilometers over the speed limit. I believe it's quite a bit more than that. But at the same time, if it's going off, there's no defense. You're absolutely going over this posted speed limit. And I know people think that it's not a big deal, but we're trying to keep pedestrians and vulnerable road users safe in that area, and we've seen tragedy on that stretch of road. In the not so distant past, there was a fatality there of a couple. So we want to keep people safe on all of our roads, and automated speed enforcement does work. There's a lot of people who have changed their behavior because of it.
Valdemar and Fatima Avila are the couple. That was in 2021. And there's a group called Safe Parkside, and they're lobbying to get some kind of speed control. I mean, what would you do on a major street like that? Put in speed bumps?
That would definitely slow some people down. Other people might just get beefier tires. I've got someone on TikTok says 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. Where do you draw the line? 1 kilometer is speeding. Don't speed. It's real simple. You know what? Bumps would be people complaining that we'd be damaging their suspension. We're not going to make everybody happy, but we do want to make people safe.
You know, with speed bumps, I'm not recommending speeding. Okay. I'm just saying you can go in between the little brakes on a motorcycle.
Not that you've ever tried that, but no, actually, that's actually a good way to not fall off.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. All right. Well, since I've got you for a couple of minutes here and you've been doing your TikTok show, Sean Shapiro is with me, the TikTok traffic cop, and this isn't one of his regular appearances, but what kinds of things have people been asking you about this morning?
We've been talking about all sorts of things. One that came up is specific to off-duty officers. They want to know if we can charge or arrest drivers for Highway Traffic Act offenses when we're off-duty. And I think that goes to the well, first of all, we are police officers 24/7, and yeah, we can actually lay charges based on our observations. We don't generally pull people over in our personal vehicles. That's not a safe thing. But we could follow up and lay the charges. Absolutely.
Okay. How do you do that, though? Like you walk up, do you carry your cop ID with you at all times?
I always have my badge and ID, absolutely. But I don't actually have to engage. If I've got a license plate and I make a good observation of who the driver is, I can then follow up and figure out who was there and what time it all happened, because I'm a great observer and I make voice notes.
Okay. The other thing that just is of constant concern and confusion in a number of communities, including Toronto, is all these new mobile units that have popped up, like motorized bicycles and motorized scooters, that sort of thing.
That's a huge topic. We have e-bikes that are legal. We have e-bikes that have been modified or were manufactured and are not legal. They're actually motorcycles masked as e-bikes. We have e-kick scooters that have a pilot that can be legal in Ontario but not legal in the city because we've got a ban on them, or at least we never adopted the pilot. Then we've got modified e-kick scooters that aren't legal on any road in the province of Ontario. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of confusion because you can buy this stuff and it may not be legal, and you didn't know. You may have actually believed you were doing the right thing. The problem is we have people selling these things who are not exactly honest. They would like to make a sale.
Okay, but if I walk into some sort of dealership, I could be forgiven for just assuming they're selling a product with a licensed business. It must be a legal product.
Well, that's the assumption you'd be making, and unfortunately, you are responsible, regardless of what the dealer tells you, to make sure that you're educated. If you go to our website, trafficcop.ca, it's my link tree. I've got links there, and it will take you to the legislation pages that the Ontario provincial government put out, the Ministry of Transportation, and it explains it all. You want to make sure you're following the law and not what the dealer said was okay.
All right, Sean Shapiro, I know you need to get to another meeting, and you jumped in to help us here today. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
Sean Shapiro, the TikTok traffic cop. And that takes us, by the way, to next Moto Camp.
Okay. And with that, I really do have a meeting, and it's 1 minute away, so I've got to say goodbye. Thank you to everybody, and sorry that I'm glad you came in to hang out. But
no, I came, just to say hi. Heard you talking at the door and thought, wow, you're late.
I'm late.
Yeah.
It was weird. There's a whole bunch of questions that I didn't get to, and I wish I could. Bring them back tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Next week, I'll announce when we're doing it. It's going to be a very busy week with a very few episodes because we've got a conference that I'm going to be attending. I'm not going to be here in the beginning of the week, so So there's a couple things going on, but we will let you know, and we will be here soon. Comment on videos, and maybe we'll just respond in text. You can also go to trafficcop.ca and send me a message. Awesome. Have a great day. Stay safe. Drive sober. I'm not even playing the song because I gotta go.